9 o'clock, if you'll stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to this Tuesday, February 7th Board of Commissioners meeting. The first item of business is public comment, which is for anyone who is not on the agenda. Have any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll get going to the next thing, and that is Rick Campbell with a highway update. Good morning, Rick. Not in your normal time slot, so it probably threw you off a little bit.
That's not my
No.
how many days. I don't have much to say. We got our new clerk. She's working out real well. We had to plow snow for 3 days last week. That was pretty tough on guys and equipment. We got several trucks down. We still got trucks going down. And because of the DEF and just the wet, heavy snow, hard to push. I ordered more salt. It's started coming in yesterday, so we should be good for the next time. That's basically all that I have, I believe.
Okay. Questions, gentlemen? Comments?
No.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Appreciate the guys. That snow was a little challenging because it kind of would come and not come, and there was some uncertainty, but I felt like we did a good job of keeping the road, so thank you. Next up is George Hurd and Dr. Bordeaux with the Community Howard Behavioral Health update, which does not look like either one are here, so.
You get me.
Good,
Yes.
thank you.
But I think they're on their way in. They are coming from Indiana. They're right there. One.
Okay,
Would you mind taking one of those and some of those?
Sure, no
Thank
problem.
you. So good morning. My name is Danielle Majors. I'm the Director of Operations at Community Behavioral Health here in town. I wanted to take some time to answer any questions that you have over the operations that we've conducted over the last year, but I also wanted to spend some time talking about where we're going, because I know we've had a lot of conversation with you all about some of the changes that are going on, and so I just want to talk to you about what our staff is really doing to address some of the changes that are happening. But we'll go ahead and start on page 2. And what you can see is we've served a total of 680 patients within our clinic in the last year. So those include both for mental health and for behavioral health. The biggest population that we have is our Medicaid population, which is at 56%. So moving forward, as you know, that some of the changes that we're going to be making in the next year, where we'll be going to more community-based services, this is a majority of the population that we'll be continuing to serve, and that we'll be able to continue to serve them by going into their homes and be able to meet them there, instead of them trying to have to find a spot into the clinics where we're moving into. You can see where our contractual write-offs have been over the last year. So we've had $553,666,000 in contractual write-offs. And our charity and sliding scales are $102,267. As far as our unreimbursed activity, you'll see on page 3, you can see that we continue to do several different services for the community. Those include the emergency services and our crisis lines. Those are 24/7. Our inpatient services to uninsured Clinton County residents, our reports to probation and Department of Child Services. Those take a significant amount of time, and we make sure that we communicate with them monthly. We do community care coordination with treatment and social services stakeholders, and then we also provide the trauma and crisis response to community events. So anytime that there is a trauma or crisis that occurs, especially with our EMS, we try to get out there as quickly as possible to address those needs and help them work through that trauma. In 2022, we had 28 crisis assessments that were completed, and 22 of those were acute care admissions. We have continued to do several community outreach activities. So if you go to any of the community events, you will often see us there with a table and a smile. And we have continued to reach out to the community and try to work on reducing the stigma of mental health and trying to get people into care as quickly as possible. So we continue to do co-occurring living in the balance within our clinics. We continue to do relapse prevention. We do our adult MAT maintenance recovery groups and our MRT youth and adult groups. Of course, we continue to offer individual, family, and group therapy, and our psychiatric evaluation and medication management, and our community-based supports as well. We've continued to partner with Healthy Communities, and we've continued to make that partnership really strong and continue to work through ways, especially as we're going into the next year, ways that we can continue to partner with them so that way we are serving the full community. All right. So we have maintained our zero suicide support pathway for over 2 years. So what this means is we continue to screen everybody that comes into our clinics for suicidal ideation. And so we make sure that they are not having any suicidal ideation. If they are, we really ramp up our services and our care and our caring contacts for them and make sure that they are in a safe place and they have safety supports around them during that time. We also continue to work as an active part of the Clinton County Substance Use Team. We've been able to host that meeting for the last several years, and we will continue to be a part of hosting that meeting as we move forward. Even though we're going into a more virtual format, we'll be able to continue to meet in the community. We have expanded our MAT services to Clinton County, so folks are able to come in there and get those MAT services, and we'll be able to continue to do those services moving forward. Some of the other things that I really want to highlight is really the patient care that we have been able to provide for the people coming into our clinics. So if you will look on page 5, we have our patient experience metrics. And what this really goes over is how well the patients feel like they're being cared for. And I'm really proud of the way that our therapists and our caregivers in general are providing those services. So we have therapists that will sit down with patients. They will ask them at the end of the session, hey, patient, did you feel like you were cared for? Did you feel like you were respected? Do you feel like we worked on the right things? And do you feel like we're working on the things that you actually want to change in your life? And so they get to rate us on a 0 to 10 scale. And you can see on this chart how often they gave us a 9 or above. And so what this does is if they give us less than, say, an 8 or somewhere around that area, we can talk to them and we can say, okay, where are we missing? Like, what's not going right? And so they have the opportunity to have this really strong rapport with us where we can continue to help them meet their goals, make sure that they are feeling like they are getting their goals met. So we were definitely in the 88 to 91% on all those areas. So we're really proud of our team. I want to point out the top 5 addictions, substance use diagnoses that we've been seeing. So the top one actually is our stimulant use, followed by alcohol use, and then cannabis and opioid use. So I know that, and we've talked in the past about why the stimulant use has maybe been a lot higher, and I know that there's been some studies out there talking about why stimulant use might be a little bit more, and what we're finding is that, unfortunately, that substance is often cut into some of the other substances, and so you'll see people overdosing on that, and that's the one that is identified. All right, and then talking about the top 5 mental health diagnoses that we are seeing. Top 5 would be depressive disorders, followed by disruptive or impulse control or conduct disorders. And then we see our bipolar and other related disorders, followed by trauma and then anxiety. So as we move into the next year, I just want you to know that our teams are already ramped up and ready to go. They've been working with our current patient population to ensure that they have a plan of care moving forward. So as we exit the building and we go into home-based care, those patients know exactly who's going to be visiting them, how that's going to be happening, how they're getting their services, how they're going to be connected with medication management, be able to get all of those services moving forward. So we're really excited about our teams to be able to do a new way of doing our work.
Okay, thank you.
Can I answer any questions?
You guys have any questions?
Yes. Can you tell me again, when is that date?
Actually, 28th of this month.
Okay.
So you're moving out of the physical location the
Correct.
28th of this month, okay.
I've had several calls of people
Sure.
who have indicated they're not sure where you are, obviously what's going on, and it's empty, and now what are we going to do, and that sort of thing. So regretfully, I don't think the public is aware of what your plans are, so I think we really need to talk about what's going on a little bit so that people outside know exactly what you're doing. I don't know if you've contacted all your patients at this point in
Yes,
time? Or
yes, absolutely we have. So that
have.
was right after we spoke with you. That was our next step, was to talk to all our patients and make sure that they were aware. So all of our patients are very much so aware. We've also been very vocal at all of our community stakeholder meetings that we've attended to make sure that they are all aware as they're making referrals to us, to make sure that they know how to connect. I can certainly do some more media and try to figure out ways to make sure that general public, but essentially nothing is changing for the general public. So if they call our access number, it's the same access number they've always called. When they call, our access team will talk to them about how we will connect them with care. So if they want to continue to do home-based care, if that works well for them, we'll do an intake in the clinic and we'll continue to do in clinic care or in community care. But if they would rather get connected to a clinic, we can go ahead and transition them to a clinic that's closest to their home as well. So we'll just make it up to the patient and how we can best serve them.
how soon, are you going to have a satellite office open? Are you still looking for a satellite office too?
So what we're looking for is just a landing zone for our caregivers. So a spot where our caregivers can meet with some individuals. Sometimes people are a little bit hesitant to have you come into their home, and we understand that. And so for those folks that maybe are a little bit hesitant, we'll have a spot that we will be able to have a landing zone for them to come and meet us there. That's not completed yet, but we do have a contract that we are working on. So as soon as I have that information, I'll be happy to share that with you.
Good, thank you.
Will people have to go to, if they need some more intensive treatment, go to the Tipton or Kokomo location? Is that kind of
So the
plan?
intensive treatment is really happening in the community. So I think that that's where a lot of people get confused. So our intensive treatment happens in the community. Some of our medication management, that piece might happen actually in the clinic, but the intensive therapy and intensive life skills, all of that is already happening in the community. So we're just shifting to that model being 100% in the community. Some of the other services that aren't as intense, they can be done virtually, and so we'll connect with people virtually if that's an option for them. If not, then we will, if they're willing to come to the office, then we'll go ahead and meet with them there.
I'm going to back up to your report.
Sure.
I had a question. So on page one, it showed the total served was 680 people, both adults and youth. How's that compared to 2021? Is it lower or higher?
I don't recall.
I believe it's around the same. I'll go back and take a look.
Okay.
I think it's around the same. Those are unique clients. Obviously, that's not our service count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean-
And I'll just, Allison. I'll also just mention, you mentioned about intensive services, and she's absolutely right when it comes to like skills training and development and everything and that kind of wraparound approach. But we also do provide intensive outpatient treatment, and that would be, we'd refer to our clinics. We do some virtual services with that in a group format when you're talking about substance use treatment. But in person would be at one of our Tipton or our Kokomo clinic.
Okay.
Around that, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
I have one more question maybe, and it was not mentioned today, it was mentioned the first time you came to us and at council, and I just kind of want to wrap my head around this. I believe George had mentioned that the government rate has not changed since the late 90s. Could you expand on that and explain so I understand that a little better, please?
Sure.
So I don't know the best way to explain it other than a lot of our funding, as shown in that graph, comes from our government payers, so Medicaid and Medicare. And quite simply, the rates that they pay for a unit of service, so for therapy or something like this, haven't adjusted since the mid-1990s.
So it's the Medicare rate?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
and
Yeah.
and Medicaid.
Okay.
But that's kind of important because a lot of the commercial insurance then pegs their rates to those rates. And so if those haven't adjusted, then usually others don't adjust either.
Okay. Well, I think some people had seen it on YouTube and had reached out to me, and they had noticed, looking back at our numbers, that the county rate that we supply to you guys for support has
Support.
increased every year. So they were confused on the definition of government and what that pay
Oh, yeah,
is.
certainly so. This is not a local unit of government issue
Yeah,
or a state government issue. The state has little control over this either. This is really something that happens at the federal level.
Yeah, okay, understand better. Thank you.
That's why we are so appreciative of the dollars that the county provides to us, because it's almost impossible to be able to operate without.
I don't have anything else. Do you
No.
guys? Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we have Renee Crick with a Central Dispatch end-of-year report. Good morning, Renee.
Good morning. I forwarded you my documents if you've had a chance to look at that, but I just wanted to take an opportunity, as I do each year, and kind of go over our statistics from 2022 in Central Dispatch. So during 2022, we dispatched a total of 34,309 calls for service, and those are police, fire, and EMS across the board, so any call for service that required one of those were dispatched. It was just a slight increase of 1.9% from 2021. One of the numbers that does not come up when I run a report is our traffic stops. And those traffic stops, when the officers pull over, a violator, those are significant. And so I checked that total, and it was 9,046 traffic stops for the year. So that's law enforcement across the entire county. So that definitely does, that keeps us busy in and of itself with just the traffic stops. I did check from the previous year, and it was up over 1,400 from 2021. We answered a total of 38,646 administrative calls and 14,348 911 calls, for a total of 52,994 calls. So we are still consistent, as we have been the last few years. Most people have done away with their home phone, their landline. So we're pretty much at 88% staying consistent of those calls coming from a cell phone. We also, one of the reports I run is a PSAP answer time. That's something for Josh, you'll understand on the fire side of things. So the ISO reporting for insurances. So when a fire department goes through an ISO, I have several documents that I have to complete for the fire departments regarding dispatch, and one of those is the PSAP answer time. So our PSAP answer time goes by ring time of less than 10 seconds. So 98% of the time we answer the calls in 10 seconds or less. So we sent a total of 1,238 texts from 911, and we received 87 texts to 911. And again, we mainly utilize that a lot for our 911 hangups from a cell phone. But again, that is a great tool for people. People are using that more. 87 doesn't seem like a lot, but it is compared to what it has been. And, it's another tool. It's a tool for the hearing impaired, another means of communication if it's not safe for someone to make that phone call, if they're in a domestic situation or in a car and don't feel safe. So it's another means of communication for people to reach emergency services. So we have approximately 11,000 Nixle subscribers, and that is to our Everbridge app, our free app, our texting that we put out for any of our information, whether it's weather-related, roads, we got to work out this past year with all the construction, so we were sending those out to keep the public informed of what's going on. Also, in 2022, we received our Mevo to-go kits, and that is our portable, in a suitcase, basically, telephones. So we have 4 of those in there. So if we would have to evacuate our building for one reason or another, we still will transfer those calls initially to Boone County. We are Boone's backup, and Boone is our backup. We would transfer those because it does take a little bit to get the Mevo kit set up, but then we can immediately, once it's set up and functional, we can take over our 911 calls as well as our administrative calls. So if we would, like I said, have to evacuate the building, we would be able to handle those things in a decently timely manner. Last year, we were scheduled to have a total hardware refresh with our Solacom phone system because it was time to replace that equipment. We are still pending. So everything has been ordered, and unfortunately, I'm hoping this year, but we are almost a year where it's been ordered and still waiting on parts. We also still plan to have our 2-position backup at the Frankfort Police Department this year. So we are looking forward to that. We do continue our partnership with Crossroads GIS Solutions, which is for our CAD mapping. And again, I think I told you last year, this is one of the best investments that we could have ever made. And we used them a lot this year. We had lots of changes with our zones and things, such as the Washington Township zone. They are quick. They are excellent. You know, they work with me well, and I can't be thankful enough for them, and our partnership to continue with them. The passing of Senate Bill 158 regarding public safety telecommunicators takes effect this year. So the bill establishes basic training and continuing education requirements for dispatch. So the one good thing, we were already meeting those requirements, so this is nothing new. Many agencies did not have standards already set up, and we do. But part of that, with my yearly reports to the statewide 911 board now, I will have to report on each dispatcher, you know, the training that they have met all of the requirements. And part of this with the Senate Bill 158, if someone does not meet all of those requirements, they can no longer hold a job. And that's across the state for dispatchers. So like I said, it's a good thing. We already have all of those things in place with our department, so it's really no change for us other than reporting it, which will be new for me, and that won't be any big deal at all. Again, my staff, we've had a rough year, as you know. 2022, we've had lots of turnover. You know, this job is not for everyone. You know, we have some people that come in, and I tell them whether they want, you know, we want everyone to work out and we want them to succeed, but this job mentally, it's not a physical job, but it is a mental job, and it's very stressful, and unless you're in that seat, you don't know. And I'm very thankful for the folks that we have and the dedicated ones that have stuck with us, but I'm looking forward to 2023 and hopefully getting us back up to full staff and headed down the right path with that. But I did attach all of our reports that I ran for you to review, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.
Gentlemen, you guys have anything?
Good.
Nice work.
I have a question for you, Renee.
Yes.
I was looking through this, and if I understood correctly, the average duration of your call is roughly 1 minute. Is that right?
It just yes,
Like, just
yes.
across the board?
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yes, it just
what that would
depends,
be.
you know, medical calls, so we give pre-arrival instructions, so medical calls, so those are always last
Yeah.
much longer until someone arrives. So it just depends on the call, whether it's administrative or 911.
I thought that was interesting. I just
Yes.
had no concept of
Yes,
how long
yes.
a call would be.
And like I said, and I added those traffic stops in there, you know, which we treat them similar to a call, even though the report I run does not look at that. But I mean, when an officer calls in a traffic stop, we are typing it in, we enter the license plate, his location. We also have to go back into this CAD system, we validate the address, we also run the license plate, we have to enter it, the driver's license, anything that he runs during that traffic stop. So there's a lot to those traffic stops as well.
Interesting. Well, thank you.
Renee, thanks for a nice job.
Yep, thank
Pass
you.
that to your staff
Yes,
also.
thank you. And then to keep with time, probably during the department heads, I will review the Motorola contract if that works for you.
Yep.
So, okay.
That's fine. Next up, we have the opening of the roundabout project at 28 and 65 bids. So I will turn it over to Tom, who will open. He'll read out the bid, and then we'll probably take them under advisement and make a decision at one of the follow-up meetings. So,
Okay, we have, it looks like 2 bids for the State Road 28 and 800 West intersection improvement phase 2. The first one is a White Construction.
I think, didn't it?
I'll let you get to open those.
Yeah, it looks like, on this one, the total bid price on the White Construction's $5,636,000.
Did you say 636?
Yes, 5,636. Let me look at that. Yes.
Thank you.
And this one's from Milestone.
Okay, total for all units, bid price on this one is $4,807,725. And that's $4,807,725.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I'll entertain a motion to take them
Motion,
under advisement.
motion to take these under advisement.
Second.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. We'll take the bids under advisement. They'll be up here for anyone that wants to review. We'll compile those, talk to our consultant, and make a decision at one of either the next meeting or the first meeting in March. Next up is Ron Francis with the appraisals for State Road 28 and 800 West. Morning, Ron.
Morning, gentlemen. These are for parcels 1 and 3. Parcel 2 is still being worked on. We have to do 2 appraisals for that.
Thank you,
one.
Ron.
And then I've got the 2 SBJCs on the top. Those 2 that need to be decided.
These two.
Yep.
Okay. Anything we need to know outside of what you had already sent us on this, Ron?
No, not really. They are both under the $25,000 limit, so it only required 1 appraisal. Obviously, we keep those under wraps until we've actually made the offers and come to an agreement with the property owners, then it all becomes public knowledge.
Okay, so we have 2 appraisals here. One is for the Wayne R. Doak property, which is for $19,900, and the other is for the Prefer Holdings of Indianapolis North LLC property, and it's for $4,000. So, is there any questions from you guys? Okay. I'll
No, I don't have
entertain a motion to either accept these or not to accept these, if there's no other questions.
I'll make the motion that we accept the appraisals presented to us both for the 4,000 and the 19,000.
Second.
Okay, motion carries 3-0 to approve the 2 appraisals of 4,000 and 19,900.
Correct.
So, okay. Give these back to you real quick here. Do we have a timetable on our property 2, you think?
Well, because we had to get 2 reports, and our first appraiser, sadly, his mother passed away, and it was a destination type funeral, so he was out of pocket, so that's why that one's been delayed. I do anticipate it this week,
Okay.
and then the second is due by the 17th, I believe.
Okay, all right, good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Next up is Liz Stitzel with the area plan update. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning. You guys each a packet of stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay, this is really low. All right, I've brought 2 different things. I handed you 1 packet, but the top 2 pages go together, and then the rear 2 pages go together. So the first thing is just a general summary of the current unsafe structure cases that Kat went ahead and looked up for me out of our database. And they're listed from oldest to newest, and kind of given a few details about each one, a note of your last action, and then kind of staff recommendation and thoughts. So the oldest one is the Jefferson School. They're on 450 West, and that's also large, which is part of why it's taken a while. As you remember, there were some issues with the title and an alley that took Tom a bit to work through. So that's a 7-year-old case right now. That's actually, I think, the only one we have left that dates back to pretty close to the beginning of the adoption of the unsafe building ordinances. We have a new owner looking at acquiring that property who does want to tear it down. We've received contact recently, and Kat plans to call the current owner and that owner again if demo has not begun here, in the next week or so. There was some equipment being moved out there that appeared to be maybe in preparation for getting the building down. The last action that your board took was to ask Tom Little to work out the deed issue and get liens filed, and our understanding is that did get worked out last year. So our recommendation would be to kind of just give it a moment, see if this property does change hands and if tear down begins. If it doesn't, then would recommend some more aggressive fining, and then maybe looking at whether you want to condemn. And then this is going to be like the elevator one, that a budgetary, there's going to have to be some discussion on how to approach getting it down. But there's no question it affects quite a few people, and it's in a very prominent location. So its priority is probably higher than some of the others in terms of what's around it.
But in a year, it'll be in the city, I believe.
Annexation will take effect at some point. So, second one is, it's a 6-year-old case, 8989 East Oak Street. So this is kind of an interesting one. The owner of this property is deceased. When we had initially done our research to cite it, it was discovered that someone else was squatting there and kind of representing themselves as the deceased owner. So we got that worked out, so it was receiving normal taxation again. But I believe there is still somebody squatting in it who does not own it. They went through tax sale and the two parcels got split. This was before, the last few years, the treasurer's office has been great about coordinating with us to highlight parcels that need to be sold together. But this happened before, we realized that was something we needed to do. And the person who's squatting in the house acquired the parcel without the house, but not the parcel with the house, which remains in the deceased person's name. Due to the ownership issues, as last time this was discussed in any detail, it was kind of working its way through tax sale and all of that. No action has been taken on it. Fines or condemnation would seem advisable. Normally, when you have somebody squatting, I wouldn't say that fines would make a difference, but he is actually paying all of the property taxes so that the house doesn't go back through tax sale. It is paid up. So if you place a lien or a fine against it, he will have to pay that when it goes through on the tax bill in order to prevent the property from going back through tax sale. So I do think in this case that even though it's indirect, fines may actually reach the entity that is most responsible. But otherwise, condemnation might be advisable. Of course, we'd have to discuss, we've only had one other case where you have no title issue, there's nobody there who owns it, but you do have somebody in it. So, probably working with Tom to figure out how do you handle that. Is that something that there needs to be a process and go through the sheriff's department to make sure a building isn't brought down on somebody who's inside of it? But it certainly is one of the top ones that needs to be addressed. The third one is 3330 East Michigan Town Road. So you'd be familiar with this. We've discussed it more recently. This is the old apartment house. And last year you voted to allow a new permit to remodel and repair if an engineer approves a plan and they place a bond. So they're working through the very final steps of that. The engineer's been in contact with me. He's putting together a final report. They state they've got their bond pulled, but I haven't received a copy to send to Tom and Jay yet to make sure that it satisfies everyone. But our recommendation is just to kind of let that run its course unless he fails to meet the qualifications to pull the permit. Number 4 is 9333 East, 600 North. And actually, I think I do have an update on this since I typed this. I typed this a few weeks ago. Kat was following up on it. So this is the old post office in Forest. And it does turn out repairs were completed. There were some issues in the permitting and inspection process, and we didn't have the engineer's report submitted. So we're working through the details of getting that and in contact with that engineer. I think it's going to work out and come off your list, but there are no longer falling pieces coming down on employees. So, and they did get their first inspection. It just got a little bit out of line. So I expect that to conclude and come off the list in the next month or so once we finish resolving the details. And then finally, the one that we'll discuss next here, 2360 West Farmers Gravel Road. So this was the case that we talked about at our last meeting that was open, and then a neighbor was going to purchase on a tax sale, and when he thought he was close to making that purchase, kind of asked for a pause, and then ended up getting a complaint again and reopening it. And at your last meeting, you went ahead and made a motion to condemn. We did get that posting out, and it has been more than 10 days. So Kat sent me with, and attached to the back of your packet, are 2 photographs showing the house. Actually, I think Ty took these yesterday. And there's no move towards tearing it down. We haven't received any contact with any kind of plan. So it would seem that the next step, if you wanted to proceed with this house, would be to make a motion to call for bids and have Tom and I work together to get a call for bids out in the paper and sent, and then, set a standard deadline, and when those come back, open them and proceed with a choice and tear down.
I actually believe there's a representative for Mr. Davis here.
Thanks, Mr. President. My name's Wayne Zolkowski. I'm here on behalf of Davises. We do have 2 separate bids for demolition, both will be completed in 30 days. I brought copies for each of the commission members and for you, Liz,
Perfect.
if I can pass them out.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's okay.
Mine weren't stapled either, it's all
We're
right.
used to it. We're used to it. Thank you. Yeah, we got it, yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Oh, I have is one of you missing one of the 2 bids?
No,
No.
we got it.
15-150, yeah. Yeah, just a 5, yeah.
So I guess to me, there's sort of 2 choices. You guys can decide, either you can go ahead and call for bids, or you can decide, depending on how you feel about this, to sort of set it to the side for a moment and give it a chance, and then if, decide what your timeline is, and if it's not down, then you can call for bids then. It's condemned either way, so it's your prerogative how you want to proceed. The bidding process usually takes a little bit itself, so
I would be open to giving them the opportunity to do it, so if they would be willing to move forward with one of these bids, I'm not sure that I care which one, so.
I think that's up to them at this point.
Yeah.
I notice it very close, so I would say whichever they feel the most comfortable with.
did you say they would have it down within 30 days?
Both bids are for within start date. One is March 3rd, and I believe the other one's within that same week. And they're only a 3-day things from my review of it.
Yeah.
And the property itself, I've been involved in this a couple of times. It's not a school building or something that's going to take, it's very large, it's going to take a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
We appreciate the consideration, council.
So we could give it, say, 30 days, and if there's not some action
Then
by
take an action.
by our first meeting in March, then we can decide if we want to move forward with the bidding process.
I'll be here.
Does that sound reasonable?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Second.
You're generous.
All right.
And I will just make a note to bring it back up at your first meeting in March for conversation or resolving if it's down and done. So I think that's everything that I had with me today, unless you have any questions or wanted to discuss anything on your summary report today.
I think we'd take it under advisement, look at here, see if there's 1 or 2. I know we have some funds allocated towards demolition, so kind of see what our next steps and which direction we would want to go.
I think if this one ends up resolving, the Oak Street one would be the next cleanest within the funding, that we have. And then Michigan Town Road, if that ends up resolving, then you're pretty much down to Oak Street and the Jefferson School. Oak Street, of course, is a house, so that's budgetarily going to fit, whereas Jefferson School is definitely a need, probably the largest need on the list, but that's going to take some coordination and a plan.
Yep.
So,
I think there's one that's on the list that's not, we're not,
well, maybe we missed one in our, because we had to pull
Well, we-
reports out of hundreds of zoning
we own
violations,
it.
so.
It's
Which
the
one?
Manson Elevator.
Manson Elevator is removed.
Not the silos.
Yeah, the silos do not show any sign of degradation or collapse, so They were not, and the commissioners had chosen, at the time, it would be like another 100,000 to 150,000 to get the silos removed. They're not in any danger of crumbling or falling. They're 100% solid. Now, there was some talk, I know Clinton Prairie was kind of interested in the idea of maybe doing a mural of some sort, or, something that made them look different, but I don't know that that conversation went very far other than an idea. But from an unsafe building perspective, unlike the wood, they're solid. There's, I've walked around that concrete, a contractor did too, and it goes down pretty deep as well. So to remove all of that is a much higher cost than it was to get the wood out of there, and it's not in any danger of falling on anybody. In fact, the wire cables that are designed to hold the grain in are still, for the most part, intact, except the bottom few.
I think what Josh is saying is maybe it's a project we should consider, just from an aesthetic
Right.
standpoint.
I don't
to
think
clean
taking a
it up.
walk around it and looking at it,
I believe,
I don't know anything about them. And
Yeah.
I can't walk around and tell you it's okay.
I believe, if I remember correctly, the county now, does the county have possession of that through the redevelopment?
I believe so,
entity?
yeah, I guess-
So I guess you don't need an unsafe building ordinance to deal with that if you want to take it down. I I agree with you
My
there.
point is if we're gonna hold everybody else accountable, why aren't we holding ourselves accountable? The place is a dump, it's an eyesore.
No, I agree that we've been disappointed in our office since the redevelopment commission took possession. It's not been mowed, it's not being sprayed. It looked worse than most of the stuff we cited last year, but we weren't gonna be the ones to bring that up, but I do agree with you that maintenance-wise, but I don't know that.
And we're doing a lot of other stuff, fellas, and we're spending a lot of money. And if we can afford to do all these other things, then we can surely take that thing down.
Well, if you would like assistance from our office in trying to put together bids or doing something else to help figure that out, we're more than happy to help. But you own it, so that would just be something you'd need to figure out and decide. But I think as an unsafe, A, it doesn't really make sense to cite yourselves, and B, having been around it and then the contractors who dealt with it when they did the tear down on the wood, the concrete's not deteriorating or in danger of collapse, so it would be hard to argue that it poses a present risk. But I agree that it is unsightly and ill-maintained, and I agree with your philosophy of a higher standard.
I think we need to get the boundary identified a little more accurately, because there's some discrepancy among the neighbors in that area, even who owns what property. And I believe this last weekend, an individual decided on his own to go do some cleaning up, but that maybe there was some tension from adjoining landowner who thought he owned a lot of where that is. So we need to maybe figure that out first, of where that property line is, because you cited the grass, and I know we had County Highway go out there and take care of it, but
Yeah.
I'm not even sure.
Yep, they did a
that's-
great job.
But it's not even what the county owns according to Beacon. Because we only own basically a little section, and that's owned now by a holding company out of California.
Yeah, the one section on the end which has, and actually I could probably get you a deed on that, because that was, the holding company purchased it from Kat in my office, who'd ended up with it through a tax sale, not really realizing quite what she was getting years ago. And she had for a while, when there was talk of other development in there, she had an agreement with the commissioners to donate it, but then that hadn't been leveraged, and she was getting tired of paying a mower to go out there and mow it to make sure that that lot stayed compliant. So she has information about where that boundary is. I can see if she still has that she can send. But kind of the very edge of the elevator is right there on the property line, and maybe a corner of it kind of enters into that property on the
Let's just
edge.
get a verification, visual verification, so I need to see it tangibly.
If you look at Beacon, it splits right down through the center. I mean,
Yeah, it's a little bit off, because
silos are split.
back when she worked for the city, we actually cited her on the elevator, and then there was some survey checks done, and it was determined that the elevator, only one very small corner of it sat across. But no, I agree. I can pull what I have and email it forward, and then if one of you wants to meet one of us out there, we can walk through it, and then if we need to, probably the best answer would be, to be real conclusive, is to have a surveyor go out and mark the perimeter. And we can certainly coordinate with what you guys are doing on your two lots with citations against the holding company on the mowing on the corner lot.
Okay.
I think we need to do that. I agree with Josh in that, number one, you can look at it and say this cement's okay or it's not falling down, but I don't know what I'm looking at, and I'm not so sure. It may not be today, but tomorrow it could be. So to have it stand there and not do anything about it does not seem very appropriate for us. And like Josh says, we're addressing others.
It kind of falls in the same category as the one weird lot that the county owns there by the rail that has some old foundations and some grown-up stuff that the commissioners have worked with the city and trying to keep more maintained in recent years, that it's just, it goes beyond a safety question, I agree.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'll send you what I have and just let me know what your pleasure is if we can help.
Still working on a mower.
Okay, perfect. Yep, I guess I should have asked, but thank you for remembering.
Liz, what's the status of the two properties south of Michigan Town?
I did not check before this morning's meeting, but I'll ask Kat when I get back to the office and ask her to email all three commissioners with an update.
The neighbors are complaining heavily that
Sure.
they've done nothing.
Sure. Well, typically with zoning
Yeah,
by code, you're going to have a 30-day first window, which should be coming close to an end.
Yeah, we're past
Let me
that.
just check with Kat and see where it's at, because I honestly don't know off the top of my head.
Good.
And I'll ask her to email all three of you an update on those two properties.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Thanks, Liz.
You're welcome.
Moving on to old business, the first item we have is the, last time we opened the Community Service Grant Awards, and so we had, I believe it was close to $142,000 of requested funds. We have $107,500 available, and so we took those under advisement, came to some idea, so I will read off what we believe will be awarded, and then we'll take a motion to move forward with these. So if there's any changes we need to discuss, we'll open it up to that as well. So the first one is Coach Kids, $7,500. The SHARP program, $10,000. Paul Philippi Transportation, $15,000. The Crossing School, $35,000. Healthy Communities, $20,000. The Learning Network, $9,000. The Boys and Girls Club, $11,000. That is a total of $107,500. So with that, I will open it up to you guys for a recommendation, comments, any changes we may want to consider. So,
Mr. President, I'll make the motion that we move forward with $107,500, as mentioned in your report just then. And, I wish we had more money, but I think that's, quite honestly, the best we have to work with. So I'll make the motion and we accept the $107,500 as presented.
I'll second it.
okay, motion carries 3-0. Those funds are now available to those organizations, so you can reach out to Jerry and we'll get you your money. Next item is the Paul Philippi quarterly report. We do this every quarter. We're basically the pass-through for the Transportation Rural Transit Grant. So this is, I guess, a motion for me to sign on behalf of the county for the grant application. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion carries 3-0 to approve the grant application and have myself sign. Okay. Our first item under new business, move some papers around. So we have it's our AT&T Centrix contract. So a little background, I think Josh would probably remember this. A few years ago, this lapsed and it went from roughly a $1,300 a monthly charge to a $48,000 monthly charge because they essentially have a monopoly on the market and there's no other real players for this type of service. Anyways, we received the contract after the termination period, a couple days, and they wanted us to move forward and sign it. So that is what this is, the Centrix contract for AT&T. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with AT&T Centrex.
I will second that.
okay, motion carries 3-0. Next item is on one of our committees. As you guys recall, we had a couple openings, but this one specifically was for the building corporation. And I had reached out to Larry Price, and he was interested in serving on this board. So I'm bringing that nomination to the table today for him to be on the building corporation moving forward. So I will entertain a motion or questions or comments.
I'll make the motion that we accept Larry Price on that committee, effective today.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0 to approve Larry Price as the newest member of the building corporation. Last item is the Gibson software assurance quote. And so this is just basically our annual software program through our phones. It includes the bug fixes, security updates, and then it's one of the things they're working on is our equipment's 2 years out of date on the software, so they have to upgrade it to the newest version. So it's two quotes. The first one's for $255.48. And the second one is for $2,219.86. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the Gibson quotes.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0 to approve the Gibson software update. Don't see a signature on here, Jerry. I'll just make one. Yep. Department heads. No, we have Renee. Is there? You want to just lead us off, Renee?
I had forwarded you, as well as Tom, our Motorola contract for the 2 positions at Frankfort Police. And I went through it. It pretty much mirrors my contract
Yeah, I got it.
from the year before for the 2 positions that are now in mine
Okay.
in the assistant director's offices. So the total price would be $150,454. And the council is aware as well that I would be doing an additional, since it was after
Yeah.
the budget process. And then the post warranty, that's in line with everything as well for each year following throughout for 6 years. So the post warranty for 6 years total would be $45,280. And I'm assuming the last time they did the digital signature, so once I give them, tell them that if we're good to go, if it's approved by you, then I will let them know, and I'm assuming they will send that in to Jordan.
Tom, was everything satisfactory from your standpoint?
Long.
Yeah, it was very long.
It was very long. There were a couple things that I did talk to Tim about, because there will be some fiber connections that will need to be, depending on when we get closer to time. So I did have a brief conversation with Tim about that and, trying to figure some things out. But I will have those costs as well, whatever those end up being determined.
Any comments, questions?
None.
Okay. Motion?
No choice. Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Yep.
My only other, last meeting, I told you our hair handler unit in the equipment room, and we thought that was had more issues again, and it's worse now than what it was. It's functioning again. Terry and, I am so thankful for Terry and Brian, Sheriff, but with the maintenance at the Sheriff's Department, but, in QPH again is who does take care of both of our air handlers, the one in dispatch and the one for the equipment room, but it's bad. I couldn't even begin to tell you all the list of things. It's functioning now. Tim heard Terry explaining to me what all was going on. So it's fixed temporarily for now. It's running, fingers crossed. They had to order more parts. It's pretty significant. So I don't know what we will end up with.
So is
we
parts
need to
going to fix
a new
it?
one, or-
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to fix it. I mean, it's,
There was two
Which
questions
gal-
there.
I'm
which gal
sorry.
is that one?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
so,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah. It was, Tim, do you, no, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you recall, I'm sorry, I do not understand a lot of the technical terms with it, but there were issues, and, so-
Basically, they blew out an elbow because a pressure switch did not thread, so it blew out an elbow in one of the lines and it's lost all the fluid.
Gotcha.
So it's at 50% right now.
thank you.
Is that a cause of just too much hot air down there?
Hey, now. Easy.
I'm assuming, and I know how that can get you in trouble, but I'm assuming this is not part of the jail's air handling
No, so
equipment?
we are
It's
totally
completely
separate.
separate, okay.
We are separate. So
Okay.
our equipment room has an air handler in it, and then our dispatch center has an
Okay.
air handler, and those two were put in, those are part of ours,
Okay.
totally separate, nothing from the sheriff's office,
Okay. 'cause that was
runs
after
in
the fact, wasn't
dispatch,
it?
yeah,
That's right.
totally separate.
Okay,
So
I guess
those,
the
yeah.
point was, it's not something we're already working on.
No,
in
no,
place.
no.
Okay.
So these
Why
were
don't-
put in 2010 when we built Central Dispatch, so. But obviously I wanted to keep you posted.
We get quotes to like fix it for good.
Well, yeah, Josh should get quotes to fix it for good, so I don't know if
Yes.
QPH has some
And I know-
recommendations, if is it just need fixed, or does it need a completely
Yeah.
new?
Right.
air?
And I know Terry and I have talked over, because we've always known here in the last, I would say 2 or 3 years, there is a very slow leaks. So slow that it's just worth putting the Freon in
Right.
when because those wires all go through, you'd never be able to get to them to find where the leak is. Like, it would be cheaper to run new lines to the unit on the roof than it would be to try and track down through all of the walls and,
Well,
I agree with
I
you
would,
guys.
I would say
Go
feel
get it.
free to bring us a couple options to
Yeah.
okay,
consider.
okay.
Have them
Give us
maybe
their
do a
best
little
option.
more intense
Sure.
look at it
Okay.
to
Fix it.
give us an option.
Yep,
So,
all right.
How do we
Okay.
fix it?
Yep, all right.
Thanks,
you.
Renee, very much.
Yep.
Any other department heads? Jada?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
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 I had an employee who has left and taken another position. So, yeah, so it's a good way to start off the year. So, I'm going to need to replace that position. And so I was going to put out the job description today, if
Okay.
you feel that's okay.
I feel like that's
Thank
more
you.
than fine.
Okay, thank you.
Brett? Morning, Brett.
Our K-9, our new K-9 officer, and also FPD's K-9 officer are in the middle of about an 8-week training session. They reached out to me yesterday about having access to the Regions building for some training on Friday. So I want to see if that was acceptable, and if there is there any safety concerns we need to know about before we enter in there?
None that I'm aware of. I just don't worry about hurting anything, but I don't want anybody to get hurt. Does that make any sense?
All right? Leave it
Yeah.
up to them. Thank you.
Yep.
I would stay out of the basement as much as possible.
Okay.
Because of the mold issues that's down there.
Right.
So, you really don't want a dog sniffing around down there with a
We need
little bit
sick
of mold
dogs.
going down through there.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Any other department heads? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to commissioner reports. Gentlemen?
Just for your information, and I'm going to continue to look into one of our ordinances that was actually done in 1999 and then kind of revamped just a little bit in 2007, which has to do with our ordinances of mailboxes and damage. So I've looked into both of those, but I'm going to do some more studying and some more thoughts before I bring it to the table, but it needs to be addressed, I think, in some categories.
Okay.
And that's the only thing that I have that's on the table.
I have successfully made contact with a gentleman who's willing to be our mowing contractor.
Oh.
So his name is Peyton Douglas. And he's interested in taking over for Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller chose not to do so again. So if you guys are okay with Mr. Douglas, I'll go ahead and give his contact information to Liz and Kat.
I make a
Good with
motion
that?
to move forward.
Okay.
Go.
Motion carries 3-0 to move forward with Peyton Douglas for the mowing.
All right. I don't have anything else.
Okay. I have a couple things. Friday, I was able to represent us in front of the Indiana Commission to Combat Substance Use Disorder. So the mayor, myself, and Council President Dunn, along with Laura Archibald, went and did a presentation in front of this commission on kind of how we worked as a community for our opioid settlement dollars. And it's what seems very simple. They are having a lot of communities around the state that have done nothing with the funds they've received, no plan of action, and so it was a great experience. But it was down at the state library, and I was glad to represent the commissioners and the county on our behalf.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second thing, and many of you saw some of the headlines out, we've been working on development out at 65 and 28, Banderas Point, which is Don Good's development for entertainment and social activities out there. And so this will be a $30 million investment for that project, which will basically coincide with our roundabout project. Really excited about it. I think it's going to be one of the kind for the state of Indiana, and it's going to be right here in Clinton County. So excited to see where it goes and the development of it, but I think it fits in everything that we're looking for. It has the foundation of our agricultural piece, but it's kind of forward-thinking and attracting events and those type of things. So it'll be awesome once it gets up and running, and it's in a couple phases. Eventually we'll have a hotel and some restaurants and those type of things, but just the event center will be phenomenal right there along 65. So thank you guys for all the work and effort, and we'll continue to build off the infrastructure that was put in place out there.
Well, Jordan, both you and Josh have worked on that for quite some time and put a lot of effort in it, and I think there's a lot of other bodies that have done the same. Kudos, because it's very difficult to bring all of those pieces together and start to get where we're at. So I appreciate everybody's effort in this program at this point in time.
Thank you, Bert. Thanks. So, that's all I have. So we will move forward to claims. Have claims dated January 20th in the amount of $40,495.09. Claims dated January 27th in the amount of $45,535.99. Claims dated February 3rd in the amount of $55,565.13. Biweekly claims dated February 7th in the amount of $434,275.75. And court claims dated February 7th in the amount of $33,709.12.
Motion to approve claims.
Second.
Okay, motion carries 3-0 to approve claims. Next up, we have payroll, which is dated January 13th in the amount of $481,838.37.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion carries 3-0. Lastly, we have regular minutes from January 18th, and we have executive session minutes also from January 18th.
Motion to approve both the regular minutes and at the same time the executive meeting.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0 to approve minutes. Is there any other business that needs to come before the commissioners this morning? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.